This week in the security news, remembering FX, finding and analyzing Windows drivers. It's more interesting than it sounds, I promise. Network monitoring with Gibson, the backdoor in your PAM. The edge is fraying and attackers have the advantage. Age verification for Linux, banning AI, TPMS tracking, BLE tracking, weird strings, Airsnitch, RESURGE in and on Ivanti. Attackers using Claude, government iPhone hacking kits, Cisco SD-WAN, Linux in 2023. Leakbase leaks, and bro, upgrade your solar panel. All that and more on this episode of Paul's Security Weekly. This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. Ever feel like your network infrastructure is stuck in the past? Meet Meter, the company reimagining what it means to get and stay online. Meter delivers full-stack networking, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one seamless, scalable, and secure solution. From hardware design and firmware to software, deployment, and support, Meter streamlines every part of your network while giving you all the control and transparency you need. Whether you're managing a branch office, retail stores, or a massive data center, Meter gives you performance, reliability, and the visibility you need to stay in control. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to securityweekly.com/meter to book a demo now. That's securityweekly.com/meter, METER. Zero Trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect. But implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. ThreatLocker enforces default deny at execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold, trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's Zero Trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker. Coming to you from the Hacker Syndicate Studios, this is Paul's Security Weekly. This is episode number 916, being recorded on Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. I'm Paul Sidorian, joined by Mr. Lee Neely. Lee, welcome.
Hey, it's good to be here, and happy to see everybody. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. Mr. Bill Swearingen is here with us. Bill, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Paul. I think we've got a good show today.
I think we have some great stories to talk about.
Bill actually remembered there's a show this week.
Bill's right. Remembering their shows. It's awesome. It's amazing. I love it. It's Mr. Larry Pesci is here with us. Larry, welcome.
Yeah, it should be fun this week.
Before we dig into it, I want to talk about RSAC 2026. Security Weekly listeners can save $100 on their RSAC 2026 All Access Pass. RSAC 2026 conference will take place on March 23rd through the 26th in San Francisco. Register using the discount code by visiting securityweekly.com/RSAC26. Use the code 56U5SECWeekly. Many of us will see you there. If you don't have a hotel room, good luck with that. I'm told that rooms are very expensive at RSA.
Aren't they always?
And not great rooms for like $1,000 a night, apparently, is what you get. Which is just crazy.
Yep.
Craziness. I think we should maybe perhaps start with Airsnitch. As I believe most of us had it in our story lists and have at least read something about it. But Larry, I believe you did an entire webcast on this. So you are now our foremost expert.
And I was really hoping that Sam was going to be here because he had a very kind of different take on this. And quite honestly, I don't dispute what he had for a take on it. But yes, I did a webcast Monday. Yeah, it was Monday. Quote, an emergency webcast for SANS because there was lots of background and lots of hubbub in the industry. And quite honestly, when you go look at the paper, one of the folks that is involved is when Matthew speaks, you listen. because like Matthew is one of the best wireless security researchers. He was responsible for crack, and a couple of others.
It's kind of like he
well.
picked up the torch from Josh Wright, carrying it forward.
But I'd argue that Matthew, it's in his name, right? Matthew has really done a lot with the encryption and the math parts, arguably, of it. But it's just not Matthew in this in this case. He had a whole team of researchers working, with him or for him, in some case at UCal Riverside. So it was definitely a team effort, but. Unlike crack, they didn't test as nearly as much type of stuff, and they released a set of open source tools to actually do the attacks against the issues for Airsnitch.
So, Larry, before you get into that technical part, what was, I mean, so, I saw all of the things, what at a high level, what is Airsnitch?
At a high level, Airsnitch is a way for you to break client isolation. So client isolation is a method so that you can put two wireless clients on an access point. And prior to client isolation or without a turn off, you could send traffic into the access point. The access point would relay it back out to your other clients and back and forth. So you could do interstation, interclient communication on the same.
You mean just like we were on the same subnet?
Right, just like you're on the same
regular
subnet.
Ethernet. Yeah. Except in Wi-Fi with the encryption protocols or the protocols, they don't let wireless clients talk to each other. Is the goal?
Oh, they do. Yeah, but they do. But client isolation, the intent is to prevent station-to-station communication. So regardless of the encryption, either way, it goes to the access point. Access point tracks who's connected and says, "Oh, you want to go talk to Paul on that access point? Now Paul's connected to the same access point, same network. Sorry, we're just going to drop the traffic." And
so that's usually used in kind of like your guest network type environments, hotels, and those kind of things, right?
And that's an absolutely great application for it, because if you think about legitimately, like if we use my home office as an enterprise, right? Like I'm talking to you from a laptop, like many of your folks in your enterprise, and I've got a printer over there. It's off camera, and that printer's wireless. If you were to turn client isolation on in that enterprise network, your laptop will never talk to that printer because they're on the same wireless.
Dear IT help desk, I can't print.
Exactly. Did you turn it off and turn it back on again? PC load letter, right? So yeah, but for guest networks, like you think about a guest network in a hospital, the patient who's recovering in room 107 their device should have no need to talk to the guest who's visiting a patient in room 209. Like these are two disparate groups of people that shouldn't be talking together. So it's definitely great for those types of things. The problem is that it was never standardized by the IEEE. So, or the IETF, either way, it was never included as part of the standard. So many of the vendors were left to lots of interpretation about how it should be done.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, Airsnitch. That's exactly what could go wrong. And so, Bill, the high level Airsnitch breaks client isolation. But we've had a break for client isolation for a really long time. And it was basically, so Bill, if you and I are on the same access point at Starbucks, we couldn't communicate with each other.
Right.
What Airsnitch really does is breaks it even further. One, makes it so we can communicate same access point. Two, we can use Airsnitch to jump from like that unencrypted guest network to communicating to someone on an encrypted enterprise network.
As long as it's an SSID on the same access point?
Yes. SSID on the same access point.
Right. So I think that was somewhat interesting. That was the big hubbub, right? It was almost like you were doing some VLAN hopping. Like
honestly,
great analogy.
That's really exactly what you were doing. And there's like 5 different attacks that are implemented in Airsnitch, and all of them deal with manipulating the network largely at layer 2. So layer 2 and layer 3. So some of them, the injection attacks are basically, oh yeah, so then they made some claims in the industry and some of the articles that it breaks wireless encryption. No, it does not break wireless encryption. It maybe bypasses or abuses the encryption. One of the first attacks, if you join an encrypted network, you're given a GTK or group temporal key. It's for broadcast traffic. Everybody has the broadcast key. Everybody can decrypt broadcast traffic. Well, what do? You take that broadcast key and you send a broadcast packet in, but when it's decrypted, the destination is for a MAC address that is unicast.
That makes sense.
Great.
Excuse me.
So what do? You use, and it's transmit only. So what do? You send those packets in and you do ARP spoofing. You now ARP spoof that, oh yeah, no, Bill over on that encrypted access point, and I'm Bill. So now all the traffic that upstream switch goes to pass the access point, they go, oh no, our ARP spoof, it's not over there on that access point, it's over here on this unencrypted network. Send it to Larry, who's just spoofed that MAC address. Same thing on the other direction. You can do ARP spoof, ARP injection in the same manner, and spoof the gateway. Spoof the upstream gateway, and now Bill goes to send traffic out to the internet, and nope, it goes out the wireless network and comes to me instead.
Oh, interesting.
And by combining those two different style of attacks, you can get full machine in the middle, because you're one redirecting Bill to me, and you're redirecting the gateway to me as well.
From what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong here, in order for that scenario that you just laid out, you actually have to have two separate wireless NICs on that network for that to be doing that, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think the big one too, that to most people were kind of not getting at first, was, oh my gosh, it breaks wireless encryption. All they need to do is just go do some war driving and they're going to break my encryption, or they just need to drive by, they show up. No, in this case, we made the joke of the webcast, the call is coming from inside the house.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It is someone that is already on your network.
Yeah.
It's maybe a trusted client on your encrypted network, or it's someone that is in your facility to get on.
I'll push back on you a little bit there, right? Because a lot of times in the areas where that client isolation is put in place, I'll use your hospital, for example. We already treat that as an untrusted network, right? And we expect that there's a lot of people on that network that we don't know, we don't have any control over. And quite honestly, there's a QR code right there printed out to let you join that network, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, so I mean,
it's interesting though. Like,
it's not war driving, but you do expect it to have some impact in public places.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the go ahead, Paul. You had a comment in there before we get to some.
I was just going to say, enabling man in the middle, or what do we call it now? I saw it adversary machine in the middle, so we can still use the same acronym.
Yep.
Machine in the middle. Enabling those machine in the middle attacks opens up an interesting attack surface that really kind of relies on your OPSEC or your company's kind of take and what they've implemented. So I've done a lot with machine in the middle attacks. In fact, I was just kind of culling my repository that I'm getting ready to upload for some machine in the middle tooling. And a lot of it hinges on someone has implemented SSL poorly or misconfigured, which does happen. Like, don't get me wrong, it happens. However, if it is, let's just say, a firmware update, and that manufacturer has implemented SSL correctly, super hard to have gain any traction on machine in the middle. And I experienced that, and I applaud this company, and I will do it publicly once I'm allowed to talk about it, because we can't disclose yet, but that's awesome. So while there does enable a lot of attack. Now, also, if you are using protocols that are susceptible to interception outside of SSL or TLS or whatever, now you're potentially in trouble. So I don't think this is given that, like, I don't think this is earth shattering. It's something that we need to fix. I think on the priority list, maybe not as high as like provided you're doing some of those other things, right? There are some people that are more at risk than others to this attack, because that is pretty wild. That let's say I show up to an enterprise, I can be on a guest network and I can start intercepting. Can I start intercepting traffic on another encrypted Wi-Fi network? Yeah, that's super interesting.
Now,
and I'm more concerned about
right.
But I'm more concerned about devices that are on that other network, more so than like laptops and desktops, because those are usually pretty well protected, but it depends on the environment, right? I'm more concerned about the random printer or IoT device that now I can two-man machine in the middle. And a lot of times those machines don't do things properly and open up attacks.
But I think Larry, and so Paul, I completely agree with you, like around the priority and those kind of things. But I think that and the SSL thing is a little detail that people have just completely skipped, right? Like, yeah, completely. But from what I understand, that the potential only exists if you've deployed an enterprise grade access point, or let's just say an access point that can broadcast multiple SSIDs. That doesn't necessarily have
Ubiquiti, Aruba,
right?
Yeah. And that's one of the other ones too. Is that Matthew and the folks from Riverside, the majority of the gear that they tested was consumer gear. They really only tested like 3 enterprise solutions, and the Cisco one that they tested was allegedly a piece of crap. And
Meraki? Was it Cisco Meraki?
Yeah, I think so. It was like something really
Cisco's
old,
Meraki.
and it was not stable. But they did test Ubiquiti, and but most of the stuff that they tested was consumer grade gear. And yeah, Bill, to your point, you have to have one access point that is broadcasting or beaconing for multiple SSIDs.
So let me give you a scenario. So let's say that on my network I have it segmented out, and I have one segment that has just like a SCADA type stuff, sensors or some.
Yeah. Are you Ubiquiti? Because I'm Ubiquiti. Larry's Ubiquiti. Are you Ubiquiti?
I'm asking just kind of like not for me, but just kind of like whatever. And but that SSID is not broadcast on the access points that broadcast the guest network. So in that scenario, that network we're not going to be able to VLAN hop over into.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. You should,
because you're not broadcasting the SSID.
No, it's on separate hardware.
Oh, right. On separate hardware. Yeah. Sure. Separate hardware saves you. Yeah.
I mean, arguably saves you, but that's a great question. It would be really interesting to find out. And I think Bill, the protections around that really rely on stuff higher layer, and not higher layer, still really low layer, but higher up in the chain from the access point. So the protections really is if you, and this would be applicable to separate access points. I don't know if they tested against 2 separate, but if you're broadcasting 2 separate SSIDs on one access point, typically what you find happen is that they get aggregated at the access point and they're VLAN trunked.
Right. So there's on the bridge 0 in that paper. Yeah.
So what really needs to happen is when it gets to the access point, each one of those SSIDs needs to be on their own unique VLAN at the access point. Or if it's tunneled back to the wireless LAN controller, separated back out there as well.
Yeah.
And if they're on the separate VLANs right there, then you're golden. You won't have an issue. But if you think about all that consumer gear, VLANs, what's a VLAN?
Yeah.
I want to just pause and take a short break because we're trying to get a couple of other hosts on. So I think this is a good break because those other hosts also want to weigh in on the Airsnitch thing. So
yeah,
this might be a good point now that we've kind of discussed the whole attack to maybe take a break. So as we talk about Airsnitch, I want to with Lee and Sam, we're having some technical difficulties. We brought them on. Difficulties? How did that? Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Lee and Sam.
So
welcome to the show.
So Sam, I know you missed it. We went through sort of really what Airsnitch was all about, and I really wanted you here because as you put in the show notes, Airsnitch is a nothing burger, and I really wanted to get your take as to why you think that way, because I think it depends.
Okay, well, this is my opinion. It takes us back to where we were before port isolation in wireless networks. where you can see the people next to you. And all that means is you can intercept the traffic without poisoning, and all you're going to see is encrypted traffic you can't get into these days if you're using HTTPS. So it isn't the end of the world. It doesn't break encryption. It just means you can put yourself in the middle. And it reminds me of VLANs. You know, when VLANs first came out, they said this will solve your security problems. Then they figured out how to hop VLANs. So Cisco said, oh, no, VLANs aren't a security boundary. And I think isolation on wireless networks is also not really a security boundary. It's just a convenience feature.
Yeah, my only counterpoint to
feature.
that. Yeah, my only counterpoint to that, Sam, is that if you can jump SSIDs, right? If you're on a guest network and then there's another encrypted network that maybe represents enterprise users, and I can jump that and intercept things, I get it. It's still like jumping a VLAN, but I also think it's a little more innovative in that I can not just maybe connect to clients on my guest network, but I can jump over to an SSID, and if there's enterprise users, now I can start intercepting their traffic. And I agree with you.
But if they have WPA...
If you've got good OPSEC, right, this should be a nothing burger. But not everyone does.
Well, wait a minute now. If I'm connected to like guest network, and that's open, and there's an encrypted with WPA enterprise network, I still can't get in without the WPA key. This doesn't solve that, does it?
Well, you're not getting in the network. You're not getting in the network like you're thinking, Sam. But you can still machine in the middle of the traffic between those two networks from one client.
Yeah, because you're doing it before the WPA encryption or whatever encryption they're using.
All the traffic will be legitimately encrypted in whatever networks you're connected to. You're effectively abusing layer 2 either at the access point or at the gateway.
But so I get in the middle, but the traffic will still be encrypted with a key I don't have, right?
Correct, but it will be redirected either at the gateway or at the client to you.
So the only thing I can do is a denial of service attack. I can't actually...
Nope. Oh, wait, so the attacker can't... So just let me go through the scenario. I'm on a guest network. Let's say the guest network is encrypted or not. Like, doesn't matter. I'm on a guest network.
Yeah.
On that same access point, there's another SSID, which is not a guest network, which has enterprise users that has encrypted WPA with
Let's think about our houses right now. So our guest network...
I have this in my house right now. Yeah. Absolutely. I have Ubiquity, and I create multiple SSIDs that maybe map to different VLANs, let's say. So I'm in a guest VLAN. There's an enterprise network VLAN. There's users on there. Am I able to intercept their traffic, and can I see their traffic outside of their WPA key that's encrypting their wireless traffic, Larry?
Yes, but it has to have gone to the LAN first. So effectively what you were doing is this: if you're, say, transmitting a packet into the wireless network to go to your an internal web server, and it's or you're going to Google. Yeah, unencrypted Google. We'll do it that way. As the attacker on the guest network, I will ARP spoof the gateway. So I push into the access point that the gateway is not at the gateway to go out to the internet. I'm the gateway, the wireless client. Yep. So now the access point receives your encrypted packet. It decrypts it, looks at where the next hop is supposed to be, the gateway, and it goes, oh, that gateway, that's Larry, and sends your packet to the gateway.
And so it's decrypted outside of WPA encryption, whatever it is. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. So to me, Sam, that's the most significant thing. I agree. It's not like stop everything earth-shattering, but that to me, that scenario is interesting.
And on the converse to that, if I want to be able to respond to Paul, I have to so spoof the gateway to get stuff sent to me. On the converse, I have to spoof Paul so that when the gateway goes to respond to Paul, it sends, oh, Paul's not over there on that encrypted network. Paul's over here on this unencrypted network spoofing Larry's MAC address. And that's why the two cards are required, as Bill was getting to, is because you have to spoof both of them in both directions.
So I think honestly, I think that what this shows is that there is a flaw, right? Like, and I think that's why the priority was, cranked up, right? So And I think maybe, and I don't know, but I'll be honest, like when I'm going on and I'm reading through that, whatever day that was, Saturday or whatever that article came out, and I'm seeing HD responding, and like I was like, oh man, like this might be a real thing, right? And I think that,
but it goes back to what Josh Wright told me many years ago, that layer 2 is problematic for 802.11. Right, Larry, we were both sitting in the same class, having the same conversation. I think both you and I were there with Josh when we were having that conversation, that like looking at the current state of it in 2005 when we were having those conversations up until today and all the time in between, we knew layer 2 is problematic for 802.11.
And quite honestly, I'd argue layer 2 is still problematic on the Ethernet side. I'd also argue IP is problematic on the Ethernet side as well, because quite honestly, if so we talked about VLANs for segregating those two networks off. Also, some other stuff, MAC address spoofing. If you don't have MAC address spoofing detection turned on, like that's another way to catch it. Also, IP spoofing. Like there are devices out there on the LAN side that can detect, hey, you got two MAC addresses on the same on different wireless networks. The same MAC address on two different wireless networks. That should never happen. And you got two different IP addresses on the same the same IP address on two different switchboards or something like that. Also shouldn't happen.
Yeah. Right.
So
I think there are scenarios though that Sam, like where it doesn't become a nothing burger, and I'll give you a good example is where if we were in a in an ICS type space, right, where I have control network or something like that these things have been running for 30 years. They're not using encrypted traffic or whatever. And I think that you're right when we start looking at our houses or the Starbucks or whatever, right? Like, we're kind of in a world right now where we expect encrypted traffic, right? Like, but if you're in a situation where that network segment over there, has that old junk on it that no one even knows how it talks, like that might be a problem.
Yep. Well, and what Paul said is right, which I don't quite understand, that it can even remove some of the encryption, which is very interesting.
Again,
I don't think it's moving.
It doesn't remove it, but you're inserting yourself in the middle after it's decrypted.
Yeah, on the wireless side.
That's what I saw that in the paper. It says under certain conditions, it can leak plain text. And that's significant then. Okay.
That's significant.
I did not understand that.
Yeah, and that leak of plain text is doing machine in the middle. And if you're using protocols higher up in the stack and not using stuff like TLS or an IPsec VPN, it'll absolutely leak plain text over an unencrypted network if that's the way where you're attacking from. So absolutely. So there was lots to say in some of these articles where there was a lot of FUD. Like, it can leak plain text. Yep, it can, but it's not breaking encryption.
Well,
Kindly.
My question is more on the lines of, there are a lot of consumer routers that have VLANs, but are they really VLANs? Like mine has VLANs, but it's for the wired ports only.
Right. And that's exactly to the point, Lee. Like so much of the gear that they tested as consumer, prosumer, and even enterprise, pretty much every one of them had a different implementation because it's not standardized and how they deal with it.
Which is crazy. And it's crazy to think about in the context of security boundaries that we've talked about on the show so often, right? We look at things like VLANs, hypervisors, and virtual machines, containers, and all these things are like awesome technologies, but they don't necessarily represent a valid security control or boundary. And that's where attackers are going to gravitate towards, right? Because you can kind of get this misconception that, like I'm running this VM on a hypervisor and there should be separation. Even if you use hardware virtualization technologies that are trying to implement that, those have been broken so many different times, right? And I'm saying that's not a reason to use them, but being aware of what the attack paths are, what the limitations are, is a critical step in designing your security architecture, right? Going, even though it might look like and seem like it's a security boundary, it's really not. Therefore, we need other compensating controls. In this case, a lot of those other compensating controls are properly implemented SSL and or TLS.
Yep. And
again,
and or VLANs and
VLANs,
or ARP spoofing
solid
prevention.
networking.
And
you get into routing protocols too. Actually, Cisco released 27 advisories today. At least one of those was related to OSPF. I believe a Cisco ASA or FTD device. There was also 2 CVSS 10 vulnerabilities in. I don't remember if they're ASA or FTD because they're very similar, interchangeable. Like ASA is just kind of older, FTD is kind of newer, right? Firepower, threat defense is the source fire thing. So they had 27 advisories today, and again, those advisories could be more than one CVE associated with them, and it covered mostly their ASA platform, FTD platform. So ASA is your adaptive security appliance, FTD is firepower threat defense, and then FMC is your firepower management console. And what my awesome sources tell me is that if you've got a deployment of like ASA or FTD, you're probably using FMC to manage all of that, leaving you vulnerable. So I didn't even have time to put that in my stories this week because it broke like right before we started recording. So, and I think that ties into a nice transition to a number of different things. One is when we look at the problem of network edge devices that we have today, but if we go back in time to attacking Cisco devices, it was like this very kind of niche kind of hacking thing. And one of the most prolific hackers in this space was Felix Linder, FX, who's tragically passed away recently. And when that happened, I immediately felt sad that I'd never like kept up with FX and maintained a relationship with him. With just like our paths didn't cross. But I'm like, I interviewed Felix and always admired Felix. Always cherished that interview that we did with him. It was actually in October of 2010, and I went to go find it in our archives, and I couldn't find it. Put that aside for a moment. I have a backup of our entire archive of podcasts for a number of reasons, this being one of them. And so it was amazing. I took that. All I had was the MP3 file. I don't know if we recorded video. I don't know, Larry, if you remember in 2010 if we were doing video or not. I don't remember. To be honest, I didn't even go try and find the video because
let's put it this way: if we're on 20 years of podcasting.
Yeah.
And that was in 2010. That was 16 years ago. We weren't doing video.
Yeah. If we were, like, the video might have been lost. We've always tried to do video, and it's amazing how technology has advanced. But I found the MP3 file, and like the audio was a little rough. I ran it through some AI and cleaned it up. It created a video file for me. They just put a static image because I didn't have the video. And it cleaned up the audio amazingly. And so I published it to my YouTube, and the link is in the show notes. Because I am very saddened, right? People that we know, obviously, people that we've interviewed pass away. It's very sad. And I'm like, I interviewed that person at some point in history. And I just like to bring that to the surface so that their family, friends, people that knew them can go back and listen and have that memory. Yeah, so if you see that in our archives, you can't find it, let us know. We'll make sure it gets published out there. I try and make sure, like, it's a really morbid thing. I really want to create like a playlist to preserve those archives. And I'm like, man, it's so morbid. And I don't want to profit or benefit from that in any way. I just want that to be out there so that people that knew that person can go listen. And it's a preservation of their memory. And so that's my story number one. You can click that link and get the YouTube video. And there's no ads on it. There's no, other than maybe the original content that was in there. But I think you can start at around the 5-minute mark and just listen to that interview with FX. But what's amazing is that, like, when we look at like hacking Cisco devices, FX was a leader in that space so many years ago, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to have him on the show back in 2010, because I'm like, Felix, like you're the authoritative source. Like you're the person who spent time looking at that platform and spent time presenting on it, despite, maybe facing some legal troubles from Cisco. We've seen a lot, fast forward to today, all these network edge devices have so many issues, and I think a number of us had stories on it.
Yeah, and we'd also argue that Felix took that love of hacking Cisco devices and turned that into some pretty sensational stuff for Huawei. For Huawei, because at the time that he was alleging, and I remember sitting in like first or second row at DEF CON when he was doing that presentation about hacking Huawei's VRP stuff. Because he alleged that it was so easy to hack because they had basically ripped off Cisco's code.
Right.
So, yeah, they'd stolen Cisco's code, and made it worse.
What's amazing though, as I use all of these network edge devices, like recently, I've had to come up to speed on a lot of these platforms. When you interface with like the OS that they want you to interface with, right? Like in Fortinet, it's FortiOS. Cisco FTD has like their FTD kind of operating system. Ivanti, Palo Alto have their like layer. It all feels like Cisco iOS, which is like astonishing, right? I think that's because Cisco was one of those first kind of like network operating systems that everyone learned and got trained up on. So if you were coming out with a new one, you wanted to mirror that as closely as possible so that people could transition to it and adopt your product and be comfortable because you used Cisco in the past, which is, I mean, wherever
shallow
that's
learning
worth.
curve.
Yeah, they wanted exactly. They wanted to make that learning curve as easy as possible for you. So, Bill, you had one on. One of my favorite new ones is that's the Cisco SD-WAN appliances, which I haven't really dug into. But when I looked at this, Bill, I was like, this looks like Linux. If you look at the advice for how to harden these devices, it looks just like Linux. Like all the indicators when I read about this vulnerability, I'm like, it looks like just Linux. So when you do forensics on it, it was like looking /var log, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, that's Linux. And I think these are basically just Linux appliances.
Would you expect it to be any different?
I guess they've all pretty much adopted Linux, right? They've adopted that Linux virtualization layer, right? So they're running, here's my guess, major network providers, like we've mentioned, adopt Linux. They run their kind of network operating system on top of Linux and virtualize it because Linux can interface with all that hardware. It's a lot less code for them to write. I don't have to write the code.
Well, and quite honestly,
because it's the TCP IP stack.
It less if it wasn't, though. I would.
It's true. Yeah. Why am I going to rewrite the network stack or the drivers when there's a huge community of people in Linux that are making that stuff work and testing it? So I'm going to adopt that and save myself some time and resources and money. That's why.
It's kind of like
SD-WAN thing was amazing
encryption, right? Don't write your own network layer.
Exactly. Why am I going to again? I go back to if you're going to implement IPsec, are you going to write all that code? You're going to go read the RFC and write all that code yourself? I mean, maybe today with Claude, but even still, if you've read those RFCs, which back in the day I had to read because IPsec was somewhat new and there wasn't a lot of documentation, and man, it's complicated, right? Even if you're prompting a really great LLM today, it's still going to make mistakes. So you're going to go get either open source or commercial software that's been battle tested, and you're going to implement that. And even at that, it still has vulnerabilities. You look at a lot of the vulnerabilities in these network edge devices, a lot of them come down to that Linux service underneath the covers that's implementing IPsec that has a memory corruption flaw.
Speaking of bringing a little full circle, I'm going to interject here. Did you know that FX actually wrote an RFP?
An RFC, you mean?
An RFC, yeah, that's what I meant. An RFC.
Really?
Yep. And he submitted it to the IETF, and they rejected it. They said it was very well written, but the RFC was documenting a routing protocol called the JRP, which was the Joint Routing Protocol. it was a definition about how you were supposed to pass a joint around a party.
I was going to say, if that's a marijuana reference,
it is.
That is awesome.
It is.
Yeah, and I could see them not wanting to justify that with a response.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah. So, but Bill, I mean, back to the SD-WAN thing, dude. This thing's been exploited since 2023, which is
So the reason why I brought this up is I'm sure you guys have been seeing it, but CISA has been kind of like screaming at the world about this one since last week. And I found a TechCrunch article that says that Cisco has gone back and kind of looked at evidence that shows that this bug has been exploited going back as far as 2023. That's 3 years that this particular flaw has potentially been used and exploited. So there is I don't have it in my notes right now, but there is plenty of information about this. And Sam, you were kind of shaking your head on this. I don't know if you've got any additional details on this, but this does seem like something that if you have these products in Cisco products, SD-WAN products in your network, first they're remotely exploitable. They have a 10.0 CVE, and we know that they are actively being exploited. And
I just published the proof of concept exploit I found on GitHub today to our public chat for those listening live.
You did
in on the show. Yeah, I haven't tested it. Use at your own risk. I just briefly looked at the source code, but I haven't tested it yet. But there is a public POC.
Wow, cool. Yeah, and I kind of expect that over the next 6 months or a year, we're going to continue to see a lot more of this, right? Given the state of the world right now, I expect that a lot of these types of bugs and stuff that may have been previously known or previously unknown will become, or publicly unknown will become more publicly known. So just if you are a network administrator, you might want to just stay on top of your game. Right now.
Yeah. I will say, I felt really lame today. By the way, I was testing some Windows stuff. Windows has some great protections. I'm going to just come out and say that. My lame C2 code totally got eaten by Windows Defender today.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of protections to bypass. First I got to bypass secure boot. Thankfully I got that covered, right? Then you've got Windows Defender, right, which is actually a formidable opponent right now. I was holy crap, you ate my binary. I'm like,
most of the Windows Defender bypasses, most of them are not a bypass at all. It's just to get it to turned off. That's how you bypass Defenders, turn it off.
That's pretty good. And I'm like, then you got BitLocker too, right? Because if you're messing with the bootloader to bypass secure, my demo I'm working on now is infecting the bootloader, and I can run ransomware from the bootloader via hybrid PETIA. Right, so you need a secure boot bypass. If you're in the bootloader, it's before the OS loads. I can totally ransomware you. But if I try and structure that attack chain to go, I want to drop something in Windows. Lots of ways to do that. Windows Platform Binary Table, WPBT. One way to do that.
Is this making anybody else uncomfortable that Paul is playing with ransomware? Right now,
it's fake ransomware. We've neutered the ransomware, right? In Windows, it's crazy. I know. What world are we living in right now?
I'm for sure going to be very suspicious if your signal code changes or whatever.
I can totally what's amazing. I can totally ransomware the crap out of people from the bootloader because I don't have to worry about dropping a binary in Windows. Once you do that, then you have to worry about bypassing other protections. BitLocker is also something that can throw a monkey in the wrench. So I'm I thought my kind of revelation today after experiencing this for myself was now I know why attackers are going after these network edge devices. Because I did 2 demos previous to this that I was it's like a network OS on top of Linux. I'm good. I had much easier time implanting and getting on these other systems. When I went to Windows, I was there's actually some real protections here. Hence the shift of attackers going, hey, look, I'm going to go attack Ivanti and Palo Alto and Cisco and Fortinet because it's not Windows, right? Which is pretty,
on the same other,
skilled people.
On the other hand,
yes, it's like, to me, it's kind of a pain in the ass because that's not the world that I live in, right? I live in more network devices, Linux, containers, virtualization, more my thing than Windows. But if you live in that world, you got your bag of tricks up your sleeve to get that stuff to run. So for me, yes, pain in the ass because that's not my thing. And there are bypasses for all the EDRs and Windows protections that I read about every week. In fact, there was a story from MDSec somewhere in my stories that even if you've disabled Windows Recall, there's still like a Windows Recall service that runs, and it runs as system, and they figure out a way to get code to run as system through that service. Again, I didn't dig into the technical details. I briefly read it. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. I'm like, maybe I can use that.
Yeah, that was your story number 13, it looks like.
Yeah. Total Recall, retracing your steps back to NT Authority system. Great article. But yeah, I think that's why, as a threat actor, I want to go after the network edge, right? And then pivot. But I guess I still need that.
It also depends
right?
on the target pool. And quite honestly, I think what you see is an ebb and flow of what's being inspected at, and we're seeing the result of that, right? So we can all laugh about the security that Windows has had over time, and what where we're at is it's matured over time to defend against those types of we've seen before, right?
Yeah.
And
now it does stuff like what you said. Like, it does stuff. That's not saying we can't get around the stuff
for sure.
There's some hurdles there, right?
Well, but think about where hacking was when we first kind of got involved in hacking. It was all network stuff, right? Like, we were hacking. We were trying to find a telnet port open, but we were definitely like, it was more network type attacks, right? And then it shifted because it shifted into like trying to get somebody to run this binary, or trying to drop that binary on a desktop, because once you got past those once firewalls became in place, and all of those kind of things, then we have to kind of like shovel something into that network and have it call back out, right? And it's just where I think where attention is given. It changes over time.
Yeah, Windows drivers are an interesting layer, right?
Sure.
Like because like I look at like the operating system stuff. Like, you're going to attack applications, you're going to bypass EDR, all that stuff's happening in the operating system. And look, that's where much of the threat landscape, in my opinion, is today. Much of the research and threat actor behavior, right? They're playing in the operating system. When they want to start going a level down in getting around that stuff, I think the first place they go is Windows drivers, right? Because it's not the OS kernel, not anything before that, but drivers are that next level. And I don't know who these people are, but I want to hang out with them. And my story number 2 is 100+ kernel bugs in 30 days, because they've done stuff that I've wanted to do and have theorized about, and they looked at a whole bunch of drivers. Now, one of the frustrating things for me that I learned in my early days when I joined Eclipsium is I was like, why can't we start looking at drivers? I'm like, Microsoft signs a bunch of drivers to run in their operating system. And I'm like, what if those drivers have vulnerabilities and or functionality, like a LOL driver called living off the land driver, that allow attackers to do stuff? I'm like, so can't we get a list from Microsoft of like all the drivers they signed, and then go? And they're like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, Microsoft doesn't give you like an attestation API or anything to go query, to go like, hey, maybe I got this driver on my system, I'm going to go query like, hey, Microsoft, you signed it, tell me about when you signed it, how long it's valid for, and then query it to go, what else have you signed, and get all that software. No. Very similar to Secure Boot, right? We don't have those kind of lists. And what these folks did was they used an AI technology to go find one of the best parts about their research is step 1, scrape. They said we covered both the Microsoft Update Catalog, OEM sites, and public driver repositories, and collect 1,654 different drivers across 1,873 unique binary versions. So basically, you've got to go scrape and find all those drivers that are assigned by Microsoft. Then reverse engineer them, decompile them, get some agents in your LLM to do that, virtualize them to validate your results, and find vulnerabilities. In their data set, they selected 202 high-risk drivers for full analysis. And then inside of that, they found a whole bunch of vulnerabilities. So they reported 15 vulnerabilities to 8 different vendors. And I think only one vendor actually fixed it, which is kind of sad, right?
Very sad.
But again, similar to Secure Boot, if there's a signed driver that has a vulnerability, if you can exploit said driver, now you gain that driver's capabilities to do things like we were talking about before, evade EDR and affect the system. So I thought this was some of the best research I've seen. This is a huge problem. How do you go find vulnerabilities in stuff that's been signed when there's no official list of what's been signed? Awesome stuff.
First, you start a botnet, and then you start looking at what drivers they have installed.
Right. Or you just go, you break into a bunch of Windows systems and you collect all the drivers installed in the systems, right? I mean, it's interesting. Like you could, I don't know what, you could do that. Like, let's say you've got 200,000 Windows machines on your network. You're a big enterprise. It's a pretty good sample size. I mean, it's not the tens of millions that exist in the world. It's still a pretty good sample size of what drivers are there.
Well, when this becomes a bigger problem, and quite honestly, like you framed it exactly. If you're going to be targeting a Windows system, this is where you're starting right now is vulnerable drivers, right? This is where you're going. But when it really starts getting pressure applied, I bet you Microsoft could provide that list somehow. Like I don't know, but you know what I mean. Like it feels like they probably have that telemetry in Windows, at least a Windows 11 that, they could provide that data. Who knows?
Yeah. And they have increased their level of scrutiny to determine whether or not to sign the driver. Right. But again, we've got a long history here.
Right.
I
don't care about those ones. I want the ones back from older, like 2003. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
like my Sound Blaster still works or whatever.
If I revoke that driver so it doesn't load in Windows, now you can't load. Okay, your sound card is one thing, but what if it's your display driver?
Yeah.
Like, that could suck. Like, yeah, I see my BIOS come up and I can see it, but after that, I get nothing. I can't see anything in Windows because Windows is like, oh, I'm not loading that driver. It's vulnerable. And that's why we have this landscape, is because
as somebody who hasn't bought a video card in I don't even know how long, I appreciate legacy drivers for video.
Right,
but,
right.
Yeah.
So yeah. I want to go back to the edge devices. I helped co-author an article for Eclipsium that talks about edge devices, and I just want to. This is how bad the problem is. That I've identified at least 3 vendors, right? So if you look at Fortinet, Palo Alto, and Ivanti, their appliance platforms, they do not provide a facility for you as the user to interface with the underlying Linux, which also means, as a cybersecurity company, I don't get that visibility into the underlying Linux layer. But an attacker who can exploit a memory corruption flaw or command injection gets access to that underlying Linux layer.
Do you know why vendors don't give you access to the Linux, to underlying Linux? Have you ever met a user?
Is it support?
Yes, because they'll
like 100%, right?
They'll RM/RF everything and say, "Hey, this shit doesn't work." That
right?
Yeah, but you're right.
Now there are vendors that do. Look, you go on a Cisco FTD platform, you can type the command expert, drops you right into a Linux shell. Awesome, right? But again, there's a support issue there, as you're saying, Bill. But attackers can live there. That's why attackers are living there.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, right? That's now the attacker has greater access than I do. Awesome. Because normally we say, hey, this, like when we're doing a big incident response, and like I'm trying to calm people down, like, look, we know your network better than they do. We have better access than they do. It's not magic. We'll get this taken care of. But that's an interesting point
That's
Where
not
an
the case.
Yeah.
With Ivanti was the latest one I learned about, because I thought we had better access, but we don't. And based on what we were talking about with Ivanti, with that Bloomberg article last week, right? Like attackers are all in on attacking Ivanti. And, I'm not picking on Ivanti. I mean, somewhat I am, but we need that love. So if you came to me an incident response bill, right, you can't go to the customer because the customer's like, I don't have access to that.
Yeah.
You come to me as a cybersecurity vendor and you're like, hey, what can you do? And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'd love to like deploy. I did a webinar and Linux people were like, can't you have eBPF monitoring in there? I'm like, yeah, I'd love that, but I can't. So Bill, you come to me, I'm like, I can't even give you visibility into that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's ways around. There is a limited facility like in FortiOS to interface with Linux. It's very limited. You can run like LS and CAT. And so you can kind of get cute as to what you can do, with that. So they give you a command in FortiOS that you can run Linux commands with, but it's highly sandboxed, right?
Yeah.
Which is a start, but yeah, that's a problem. Especially when you go to Juniper OS, JuneOS Evolved. Again, I'm not trying to pick on Juniper, but my story number 8, Watchtower was like struggling to put together like a full blog post on this, because they're like, it's essentially a feature. Like basically there's a monitoring and debug feature in an API on JuneOS Evolved where you just make an API call and you tell it to run a command in the underlying Linux operating system, run this command, and then give me the results. And they're like, that's the command injection.
Yeah.
And like the way, how Watchtower writes, like the way they write, I was laughing hysterically like the entire time. And they're like, yeah, we have like a quota, like it has to be at least like, 200 words. So we're trying to stretch it out. But basically the RCE is the API lets you run commands, and that's the command injection. And I was like, well, that sounds like a feature that's a vulnerability. And when we teach this to people, this will be the shining example of how a feature is a vulnerability, because it's just built into the OS.
Yeah, I think we've used that to jailbreak some of those old WRT type style devices.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that they're literally, when you went to the web, to the web interface, it was like, what command?
Run a
do you
command.
want? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's legit. We have this, have had this discussion at my day job several times where we're like, we want to be able to provide better visibility into this platform, but we're limited because of reasons we've just discussed. But we're like, man, if we had an exploit, we'd gain full access to that. I'm like, can we put an exploit in our product and use it to help people secure their devices? That's so we have this like conundrum, right? And we always fall on like, no, we can't. We want to do that, but we can't do that.
That's not called an exploit, Paul. That's called a backdoor.
It's a backdoor.
You were just saying that they should give you access to the OS. So here they are giving you access to the OS.
Right. But again, if you patch it right, that access goes away. So it's not the better thing to do is to be able to partner with vendors. And that's why I'm not trying to like name and shame all these vendors. Yes, I'm calling it by name. Yes, this is what I'm observing. But I would love nothing more than for the major vendors to have a partner program and promote that partner program so that we could gain access to that, to give customers better visibility, because this is where attackers are playing. And that's my plea.
And then you wonder why everything looks like Cisco.
Yeah.
That's how, like they're also trying to protect their IP, and, there's all 100%. Of that, like,
Well, and that's why they don't want to have willy-nilly access to the firmware and VM images that run all this stuff. They're trying to protect their intellectual property. You're absolutely right, Bill. That's why they're doing things like firmware encryption. Zixel does firmware encryption, right, to protect their intellectual property. And that just makes it harder for us to reverse engineer it and find vulnerabilities and find ways we can help people protect the platform. So it's a double-edged sword, 100%. What else we got? We covered all the... we want to talk about TPMSs?
Sure.
Did you guys see there was research that was released recently where... And we've known TPMSs are just... Is it Bluetooth Low Energy?
No.
Is it low... No, it's
it's
not. It's
either 315 or 433 megahertz. There might be another in there as well. It's a proprietary protocol.
It's sub-gigahertz protocols, right?
Yep.
But there's no encryption on these protocols.
Nope.
So anyone can intercept it.
Yep.
But writing to it requires special tools. Because I had what did I have to do? I had to replace a tire or something.
Yeah, and it's typically that you are not writing to the TPMS sensor. You are merely telling your vehicle that it has a new TPMS sensor ID.
Yes.
So not the other way around.
Yes.
Yeah, they're typically read-only. So, Paul, I read this one. I'm like, oh, they're doing tracking via TPMS. Like, I thought this story was a nothing burger. Because I was talking about some folks that did this type of thing when we were teaching the SANS wireless class in London about 6 years ago. That like he had seen somebody had done this and he had set it up at his house with a cheap SDR at the time. It was like the RTL SDR, and he was getting TPMS stuff, and he could tell when his neighbors were coming home and
so
all
TPMS is tire pressure monitoring
system.
Yes, correct.
So
it's like common sense, right? So what the article said was by correlating the 4 tire IDs that appear together in short time windows, you can basically fingerprint the vehicle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. But the question really is that like they're short range. So why do you really need all 4 TPMS sensors?
Well, so and that was my question on that too, Larry. Like, wouldn't one suffice? Like, because it's a unique ID, right? Like, but how often do they poll or push or I've never done any monitoring. I've never played with it at all.
It's been a long time since I did. But Lee, you have a comment in there.
No, I was just thinking. Okay, so if each TMS was unique, then having all 4 doesn't make sense. If there was, if they were in ranges or whatever, so like maybe my left front and Larry's right rear have the same ID, then I'd want all 4 of them so that would uniquely identify our vehicles.
Yeah.
How maybe confident, the guy's just saying, look, if you really want to know it's one vehicle, get all 4 of them.
That's right. Like, how confident are you, sir? I'm 4 TPMS confident. Whoa.
Right.
Hey, man, I got all 5. I got the TPMS off of Larry's spare to boot.
Yeah.
Actually, with the micro spares, I wonder if those even have TPMSs in them. But
probably
point
not.
Being, it's interesting. It's short range, so I'm not sure exactly what we could do with it, but it would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, VIP definitely. If you're gathering this data at choke points, parking garages, and maybe doing larger scale type of stuff like.
Mm-hmm.
They said the range is over 50 meters.
Mm-hmm.
It's relatively short range,
okay.
150 feet.
Yeah,
right.
If I'm tracking somebody, I better make sure I'm set in case they put on their snow tires.
Right. Or they're replacing if you're doing all 4 together and they replace one tire.
You're supposed to replace the TPMS when you get
Yep.
new tires. Not everybody does it, but you're supposed to because they have a limited life. The battery runs out.
Right. And that may be another reason for all 4. So you capture all 4, you correlate all 4, so that if one of them disappears or changes, you have 3 to remain on, so that you recorrelate the 4th. I mean, that makes sense.
Because they can fall off and then bounce around inside the tire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have to take it to the
This
somewhere.
feels like you learned this the hard way, Paul.
I did.
Yeah.
I did because I had it was actually a Lincoln. And it was making like a weird noise. And when I researched it, I think I also had a TPMS error in the car. And my theory was that it fell off. And then I went like down the rabbit hole. I'm like, so can I just get a new sensor? And they're like, sure. I'm like, okay, how do I reprogram it? And depending on your vehicle, you could acquire said hardware, and it ranges in price depending on the vehicle and how many vehicles you want to support to reprogram your car to recognize a new sensor. I'm like, great, cool. Like, but I have to take my tire off and put it back on, and I don't have the gear to do that. Yeah. So you just take it back to the dealer, and they charge you like exorbitant amounts of money to take your tire off.
$1,000 to reprogram
because they have to pay for the gear to be able to reprogram it, and then certain ones you have to take back to a dealer because they won't give like regular repair shops. And so I learned the whole the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
What are you driving, a Ferrari over there?
No, I had a Lincoln.
I just remember coming up on a display about making sure your TPMS was this they're weird ass looking devices. I mean,
yes, because they attach to the valve stem on the inside,
of the tire. It looks like a valve. You recognize the valve stem part, but what's that thing on the other end of it? You know.
Well,
all right. Hey, oh, go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say, just real quick, one of the things that is coming out is that that Israel has spent years hacking traffic cameras, and not to get too much into the war or anything, but I think that this is a really interesting story related to your TPMS scenario. That
I was thinking the same thing, Bill.
Right,
your head is right.
That when it's just such an interesting thing when we start taking a look at how are we going to target an individual and what capabilities are available to us, right? Obviously, this kind of is like everything we see in the hacking movies where they're like, okay, just give me a second and I'll log into every traffic camera and boom, I've got him here, boom, 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 got him down as he's going down the line, and then he turns the corner and we've got him, sir. We've got a lock on all 4 TPM. We've got him.
All this stuff is bounded in reality. Like,
yeah. But over time, if you were able to do that, I was thinking of the various government agencies, seemingly from multiple countries, that have the capabilities to do things like track TPMS sensors and have the requirement to be at that. Israel would be one of said countries, right? That have that capability, have the ingenuity, innovation to go, well, we need to track people. Also, they need to track targets, and due to threats, they could use this technology potentially to be able to track the location of specific people. But it turns out they did that, Bill, but based on your story, one of the ways they did it was hacking into the cameras. But that's just not, again, like you're saying, it's not a Hollywood thing where, oh, let me just bring up the camera. Oh, yeah, that person's here. It's tracking years of collecting telemetry, research, and gaining access.
Well, I saw a really interesting documentary. I think it may have been Wired. I think maybe this weekend or something, and they were talking about how a lot of the Iranian and Palestinian infrastructure runs over Israeli telephony systems, right? And so when you start hearing these things that that, well, how did they get in, or whatever. If you start like going down that path, well, what would be, Bill, okay, if I wanted to access traffic cams in Kansas City, how would I start, right? Well, it becomes a lot easier if it's running over your infrastructure to begin with.
The call is coming in from inside the house.
Oh, right? My God, right? Yeah, yeah. They should have used host isolation.
Speaking of tracking, while I take a quick bathroom break, Larry, I want you to start talking about the project that you built.
Oh man, what a cool project. I love where
awesome stuff, dude.
I know, just so cool. Like I saw the ideation happening over the last couple weeks, and then boom, here it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, and Bill, this wasn't even the one. So we've been talking a lot about AI on the show over time, and this has really been one of those things. Like I took that article to heart that I shared about go get a good prompt. Like tell your agent that they're a really amazing software engineer and they can go and do this. Write me a spec. And this is exactly what I did. I'm like, hey, we saw a couple of weeks back, we saw the article about someone taking a cheap yellow display.
Yep.
Or something of the like, and it would flash on the screen that someone's wearing meta glasses nearby. And then the next one was like, hey, now there's an app for that. So there's an app on your phone when someone's wearing meta glasses, it will put something on your screen. Something like meta glasses. Like Bill and I know how to do this way better. There's a whole bunch of other things that are potentially privacy inducing problems. I'm like, and I've got 100 cheap yellow displays in that drawer right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Claude, here's the deal. Here's this project that Bill and I worked on for this cheap yellow display to do detection. We did it via OUI MAC address But there's also in the Bluetooth advertising packets this other field that specifically identifies vendor. Can you go and now build me a detector? Go do all the research about all these things that are privacy inducing.
Neat. Yeah,
and like pacemakers, and like this was also inspired a little bit by Dave Kennedy stuff about pacemakers and meta glasses and fitness trackers and air tags and all the stuff. Go get all of those manufacturers from this list. Now build me a detector, put it on the screen, make it scrollable, and all the stuff. I'm like, great, that works. I can't go buy all these things to test it with. So guess what?
No,
you need to build me one that can transmit all of these identifiers as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, nice.
So that's part of the thing. So that device will both receive and transmit all of those identifiers. So you can take a second one and have it transmit all of them and go, oh yeah, no, that actually works. And then I'm like, well, if I'm going to make it transmit, let's have it do confusion mode. Like if someone's got one of these tracker detectors, let's just send everything and barf stuff all over the place. So now their alerts go crazy.
Yeah,
and that's the third mode that this thing will do.
I think when the three of us were working on this for AirTag detection, it was obviously pre-Claude Opus 4.6. There's a definite
that's right.
line in the sand.
Yeah.
Pre-Opus 4.6 and post. And now Opus 4.6 can take our ideas and implement them much more reliably, in my opinion, Larry. And so I was so glad you did this project, because it's like Bill said, right? Taking our ideas and making them reality, and taking away a lot of some of the hard work, engineering research that we had to do, and is able to kind of automate some of that stuff for us, which is great.
Yep. So that project took 3 hours.
Yeah, dude, that's so cool. So just to be clear, this is Larry's story number 4. And how do you pronounce it? Like I've tried so hard. That's exactly how I pronounced it. Was actually just like that.
That'll work. I don't know if there was a pronunciation to it. The PTD is the privacy threat detector.
Yeah.
So
BLE,
that works. BLE. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. It's the artist formerly known as Prince, right? You can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
So and quite honestly, Claude came up with the name for it too. I'm like, yeah, it works. It works.
So this is what I would consider the actual real release of the software.
AirTag scanner.
The AirTag thing.
Agreed.
So it runs on a cheap yellow display. It's super cool project.
The interface is way better. Like it's got buttons. You can scroll through the list of stuff. You can click on them to get more data.
Man.
Also, that's where I ended up.
Spoil users.
That's where I stopped. So I forked the AirTag scanner project. And I made a lot of improvements. And where I got hung up was the libraries that really interface with the display to make a really nice UI.
Hard. Yeah.
And I was using LLMs to help me code it, but it wasn't able to put all the pieces together to build a really great user interface for it. And then I was like,
quite honestly,
I hate UI shit. And I'm like, whatever.
It is
what it is now.
That was the UI part was the hardest part of the whole project. Yeah. And quite honestly, so I'll talk about the other little project just a brief bit here. But the UI was the hardest part of the project because it had it rotated the wrong way, and then it couldn't tell where the buttons were because it can't touch it and it can't see it. So
the code for programming those displays, I will say, is very tricky, and it's very intricate.
And then it wasn't calibrated and was offset. It was doing all sorts of weird things. It rotated the screen one way and it didn't change the GUI was the hardest part of all of it. And that took the most troubleshooting. But it was great because it was super easy to flash these things. And in fact, I turned the guardrails off on Claude CLI and the dangerous permissions thing. And you've got Platformio. Go flash the damn thing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You do it. Keep
Platformio
asking me.
Platformio is awesome for that development because you can write code, it'll compile it, and then pop it on your device all through Platform.io. So why wouldn't you give Claude capability to do that? Yeah,
do it and tell me when it's ready to test. Oh, no, this is broken. Great. I'll fix it. Do it again. Test it again. I did that sitting on the sofa watching TV.
Hell
and
yeah.
It was done in 3 hours.
So just looking sorry to interrupt, Larry, but just looking at your repo, it looks like, first of all, this is a really, really cool project, but it looks like you are able to detect trackers. So like what we were doing before, any kind of air tags or any of those cheap tracking tags. Also any kind of camera equipped smart glasses, medical equipment, smart watches, fitness bands, wireless earbuds, headphones. Dude, that's so cool.
And not just based on MAC address though, but based on their like beaconing and broadcast traffic. Is that what I heard you say, Larry? Yeah.
So BLE Special Interest Group has their individual manufacturer identifier in the beacons themselves, and that's actually what it's doing. It's doing it via the beacons as opposed to MAC addresses.
So are people able to contribute and upload signatures to it?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. That's where I wanted this project to go. Was we in Claude can't know about everyone's ID, but let the community up like, oh, this is an ID for this device, so let me put it in this project.
Is that such a and I haven't really looked into it, Larry, but so like, is that do you have the same dependency on that, or are you reading that name and like if it's unknown, like the category, you would still detect it, right? And with the
so you could still detect it, but in this particular one, it's not doing with it. It's got a defined list of stuff that it's looking for. So it's arguably more accurate in that there's going to be a device there. That device is going to be doing those type of broadcasts.
With you.
I'll also add, not only does it have a GUI, it also is controllable over the serial port.
Yep,
of course,
and will spit its messages over the serial port. So you can throw it in your bag and connect to it via USB serial.
Will it write it to an SD card?
I did not have it write it to the SD card, but hey, pull request.
That's a few more prompts. Yeah, it's a few more prompts.
Exactly, a few more prompts. Pull it down, get Claude to do a pull request. And
so on the fingerprinting, I'm thinking about, there's that, what is it, OUI, is that the right one for MAC address database? Is what manufacturer?
Yep.
Are you creating the equivalent, and will that become a standard or something?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Oh, so the Bluetooth Special Interest Group has the mapping for the OUIs already.
No, but I was thinking you said it's not MAC addresses though. It's their beaconing.
Right. It's the manufacturer beaconing identifier, and the Bluetooth Special Interest Group tracks that as well.
Okay, so there really is a standard.
They maintain maintain and publish the list. Yep.
Which is cool.
Okay, so you can just suck down that list and then add it to the code.
It's exactly what Claude did. In fact, I didn't even tell it manufacturers. I told it just go find me trackers and fitness devices, and it went. So the list is probably not comprehensive. It did a really good job.
But still, what you're also taking, I'm sure there's contributions so people can make it better.
Oh yeah. It's on GitHub. Contribute, please.
I mean, it's kind of like
what's really cool about this.
Better.
Yeah, what's really cool about these kind of projects, right, is you probably have a CYD in your. And it's one of those things that somehow we all have one, or if you don't, they're super cheap. They're, $15.
And we gave a bunch away when you guys presented at ShmooCon, at the last ShmooCon, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so like this would be worthwhile to, and once again, kind of going back and getting your hands dirty, programming a board, like looking at it, seeing how it works. And quite honestly, Larry, like if you do that in your home and you have a BLE device that we don't detect, give that signature to us and you improve the project, right? Or not to Larry. But
but Bill, I love where you're going, right? Like these are inexpensive devices that represent like an entire ecosystem. Like it's a small compute device. You get to mess with firmware, hardware, software, wireless and serial and right into SD card, the whole thing. It's a great experience.
I'm getting a soldering iron.
Yeah. What's so, and I need to get back to this, but like I really want to develop some materials to engage with people who want to do hacking stuff, right? Regardless of your experience, but let's take your hacking skills and apply that to like a small platform that can do a lot of things that you can write code for that has a lot of capabilities.
I think that's why ESP got so popular.
Agreed, right? Awesome platform.
Yeah, it's approachable enough, but it's not Legos. You got to put in some effort.
Right?
You know, but it's capabilities.
There is a YouTube video that shows you how you can make your CYD as close to a flipper zero as possible, and requires getting all kinds of devices and wires and a lot of soldering, and it's the physical interface is going to be really ugly, but you can make it do a ton of things,
and you'll learn so much,
and you'll learn so much.
Yeah,
and people have done that, and they publish the tutorials like, hey, here's the wiring diagram, like you got to go make that work. I think it's like hacking at its finest on these platforms.
While we're on ESP, I want to make sure I do a shout out to my number 3. So Nito Brain Slug. So last week we were talking about robot vacuums. There was some guy that took over 5,000 of them, whatever that was. Well, there is a robot vacuum out there called Nito. I actually have one, and they were acquired by somebody else, and the acquiring partner has shut down their cloud services, essentially making these Nito robot vacuums they just don't work.
They're not Nito anymore.
They're not Nito. That was not Nito of them to do, for sure. Well, this guy figured out how to not only write a command and control firmware for writing it to ESP32. You have to connect an ESP32 to some debug ports of your Nito devices, but it also connects to like Home Assistant and everything. And so he's essentially figured out how to add a little brain slug to your robot vacuum that otherwise you would have had to throw away. Now you can have a cool little hacking project and get your vacuum back up and running. So I just
a lot of projects like this. There was a scooter we covered where someone did that same thing.
Yep.
My e-bike, we were talking about e-bikes before the show, and that's some of my concern is maybe the company doesn't go out of business, but they end of life a particular line of e-bikes. There's electronics in it. Like I have an aerial rider, and I'm like, it is a model that they don't support anymore to a certain extent, right? But I'm like, let's say a year or two from now, I have some issue with it. Like, what do I do? So you have to rely on other hackers that do that, or your local repair shop. I actually looked up repair shops in Rhode Island. I'm like, if push comes to shove and I got to like swap a motor out or something on my e-bike, I'm like, I'm not sure I want to take that on myself. Yeah, like, yes, as a hacker, I want to do that. But also, there's time. But also, there's safety, too. So they'll actually recondition batteries. I'm like, yes, could I figure out how to do that on my own? But also there's a risk of like fire and stuff like that. So like, there's certain cases where you're like, you know what? I want to just bring it to a place that knows what they're doing, right? Because if my batteries die and I can't get a new battery.
So different. We're so different. I'd like get the drill out, like let's start some fires and figure. We're gonna learn this the hard way the first time.
But dude, don't forget your e-bike, dude. Those are big batteries, man.
Those are
like
huge, man.
It's a safety issue, right? Like I'm a sloppy. I guess what I'm saying is I'm a sloppy hacker, and my e-bike would totally catch fire. Like you're riding
and these are for the same reasons why we've been doing lots of college tours over the last couple of months. That why all the colleges you go to, like, no, your e-bike or your e-scooter needs to be outside. You're not even allowed to bring them into the dorms to charge them. They need to stay that shit stays outside. Because you put 800 kids in a dorm and one of those things catches fire in your dorm.
That's a lot of compressed potential energy.
But there was the article we covered where they had a CT machine that was CT scanning batteries and noticing that like not all, we talked about this, right? Not all the cells are the same. Battery management systems, like it's not all the same, right? Like there's different levels of
that's right. I don't know if I was on the show for that one, but I know what you're talking about. They did that CT scan and they found that like most of the cells that they looked at didn't, like they would have overlapping like anodes and cathodes and like that they were like whoa. Yeah,
when you hear about these batteries catching fire, to me, that's where it stems from. It's like a cheap knockoff battery that didn't pass all the safety and standard test that someone ordered from AliExpress or even Amazon, right? Or it's the charger and or interface to it that has the battery management system that doesn't do all the checks and balances when it's charging.
Well, I got
That's
bad
the shit
news
that
for you,
catches fire.
Paul. My electric car is right below me right now, and my electric bike is right there. I sure hope that they don't explode. You know?
I agree, man. And that, I mean, that's one reason why I went with Tesla, and I have the official Tesla charging thing in the Tesla car, because I'm like, probably not going to catch fire. If it gets submerged in water, it will. But I don't live under sea level like people in Florida that happens to as well, which is a concern, right? So, yeah, be careful. All I'm saying is, like, as a hacker, like, be careful, like, because when these batteries
if you
catch fire,
if you
dude,
haven't seen a lithium battery catch on fire,
yeah, dude, it's bad.
Go do it once. Go to find a cell and go put a nail through it, and you'll one cell.
For the record, take that nail and like duct tape it to a really long stick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't do this.
That good point. Good point. For science, you know, safety third.
I'm saying,
whatever.
like, if you heard it here, like, don't do it. If you do it on your own risk, but realize
do it outside. But you will
batteries are not something
you will gain a lot of
like
respect for an individual.
I mean, I love hacking so much, but there's safety concerns are
listen, I don't like this new you where you have to like do all these disclaimers. Just let me tell people to blow up batteries, and
I know.
Like, just let me
do
go.
it in a controlled environment. I mean, blowing shit up is cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, do it in control. Larry and I and others over the years, we've blown some shit up. I don't want
anybody to get hurt, but it's worth doing.
No, don't. Yeah, be smart.
Don't get hurt.
Because I mean, my sister had a science instructor who what he would do is he would give a block of sodium to a kid and say, go throw it in that tub of water.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Science is awesome. It's about upgrade your solar panels, Bill. That was one of your stories along those same lines, right?
Yeah, this is really interesting. So there's I'm trying to find, so it's my story number 6. Some researchers have found that some solar panel, not the panels themselves, but the inverters, the inverters.
Yeah, the inverters. Okay.
That desperately need to be patched and upgraded right now. After doing some research, they found that these panels. So generally speaking, what the inverters are there for is just a lot of reporting, like how is each panel doing, how are they leveled, just giving you some
they're converting energy, right? And like
they are, but
some cases like a lot of energy, right?
My point is they're connected to the internet. The reason why they're connected to the internet is to provide you with that reporting capability. Right, they're converting the solar energy into DC
electricity
power, right?
Yep.
But as you would expect, these things are smart. You would expect that you would be able to see how they're doing. Well, they're connected to the internet. Some security researchers found that it was absolutely trivial. Full remote code, like just remotely being able to access the underlying. Actually, it was an ESP based device.
Yeah.
That leaked Wi-Fi creds, the exact location. GPS cords, and then also, of course, all of the, what you'd expect, the energy data and everything that's coming from your panels. And so if nothing else, I just think it's kind of smirky a little to me for like, we got to go upgrade our LED panels, not the panels themselves, but the
firmware. Yeah. And it's interesting when you look at the security of the ESP32 platforms, you can write some pretty janky insecure code for these devices, or you can write some pretty resilient code for them as well. Like there's a lot of security. I was talking about it when we do a pre-record this morning. I've talked about it before, right? It's like my trifecta. Like, do you have secure boot enabled? Do you have firmware encryption enabled? And do you cryptographically verify the signature of your firmware? 3 completely different things. Does that exist on your platform? And that's kind of the foundation, right? Now, Bill, what you're talking about is then when you build on top of that foundation, are you storing the SSID securely? Right. Are you securing your remote network interfaces on that platform? And ESP32 makes it easy to really screw that up or really do it well, right? So, and everywhere in between.
So I always kind of, whenever I hear these kind of things, I just assume, and I feel like we've talked about this 100 times before, but like these chip manufacturers are putting out, reference code, and it just seems like everyone just grabs that cheap ass reference code.
Reference code in the reference code. Yeah. There you go. 100%.
I want to. Real quick. Speaking of real cheap ass reference code, my story number 1, real quick. A tool for quote decrypting STM32. So STM32 hardware and a bunch of others has concept of RDP, so readout protection. And in this particular case, this inexpensive device defeats STM32 readout protection.
I don't know what STM32 is.
It's a ST microelectronics processor.
Oh, okay.
Kind of similar to like ESP32, right? It's an MCU.
Yep. Or the what is it? The MSP 430 style type of thing that we were seeing back in the day from Travis Goodspeed.
Yeah. I looked it up quick. Yeah, it's an ARM Cortex M3. That's the STM32F205RB. It has a megabyte of flash, 120 kilobytes of SRAM. So it's an embedded platform similar to ESP32. There's a lot of similar platforms like that, right?
Yeah.
Travis Goodspeed has his book talks about platforms like this and how to interface and hack them. It's a great book. I forget what it's called, but it's awesome. Look up Travis Goodspeed's book. Yeah. Awesome stuff.
So, all right, moving along.
Oh, I want to go to one of Sam's stories on banning stuff. Sam, you and I both had this story, Sam, right? And it's been all in the news and stuff like that. Trump orders the government to stop using Anthropic in a battle over AI use. I've just never, like, even outside of technology, when the government specifically wants to ban something, I find it's annoying. I find it often doesn't accomplish the goal of safety. And it's often done for more of a political reason
punitive
than an actual like protecting people kind of reason, right? And even if the goal is to protect people, banning something doesn't just make the threat go away. It just people find avenues around the ban. Well, I mean, you can point to so many examples like prohibition in alcohol. Like, look at what the banning of that did for society here in the U.S.
But in this case, there wasn't even any issue of protecting anybody. What happened is Anthropic was maintaining the military's AI, and then they said, we have rules. You can't use our AI to do mass surveillance of citizens, and you can't use our AI to make an autonomous killing machine that will kill people without a human in a loop. And that is reasonable, right? They're trying to protect their brand.
Yeah.
And the military said, wait a minute, if we buy a weapon, we're going to use it at our discretion. You can't tell us what to do with it. And that's not totally stupid either.
I think there's more to that, Sam. Like, so it wasn't that they were trying to protect their brand. They said that our model's not ready for that, right? Like, our model should not be making a kill decision, right?
Well, see, that's another thing. You could just warn them. The model is not very reliable. If you make a killing machine, it has like a 10% chance of killing the wrong person. And then the military might say, there are circumstances under which I'm willing to accept that error rate. It's not like you can't do it. You should just know it's risky. Yeah. But the point is, the logical response to this is the Army should just say, okay, then we're not going to buy your product. We'll buy another product. You don't ban them and put them on that unsafe supply chain risk until no government agency can use them. The fact
is there's valid use cases. I think, Lee, you were talking about this, right? Like military would be like, well, we want to use it to enable offensive operations, but there's other branches of military and or government that are like, we just want to use it to write like great code. Which, by the way,
we're trying to hack CYDs over here.
I mean, dude, all of us can attest. Like, you can use Claude to help you write great code, right?
Think about the code that JPL, NASA are using to create spacecraft. Come on, and and as a contractor, is a enterprise contractor, so that means that Boeing can't use it, and probably SpaceX can't use it, and
I mean, look, Claude makes the best coding agent, and in fact, if you try to use Claude for some other use cases, it's seemingly not as great as it is in writing code. And I actually applaud Anthropic for kind of like doubling down on, you use us for writing code. Like, that's great, because like your mission now, and you're enabling all your employees to go, let's make a model that lets people make great code and write awesome code. I applaud that, like, because they're not, I think what's hurting OpenAI is they're trying to be like a generalist, right? And Anthropic is like, nope, we're going to double down, use us to write great code. And as we've already established, they're doing that, right?
Well, you know,
and
to make it
so
even
to
more
like
ridiculous,
ban it, it's like I get, you know, the reasons and ethical decisions, but also, like you're saying, Lee, if NASA wants to deploy something and they want to use Claude code to help write them code, why wouldn't we do that? Because they're just trying to put shit in space, which is awesome, right? I'm all for space exploration and science. Use it for that.
I was chewing on this earlier today, and I was thinking, you know, okay, let's say I've given you an Anthropic license, and you know, they're talking about on their classified system, so it's completely isolated, right? You can't tell what I'm using for. The restriction's unenforceable. You can't tell what it's being used for. And so I'm kind of like, I mean, I get
you could ask though, and you would have to attest to, right?
Is this the battle you want to fight? It's not really an enforceable restriction. I mean, you could say don't sell it to a .gov, which is fine. That's enforceable. You just check who's buying it, right? But
based on usage. Yeah, right.
But I mean, but I'm not saying they don't have the right to put restrictions on how their software is. Right? I'm just saying it's like you see regulations that are unenforceable, and you're scratching your head and going, "Wait a minute, what the heck?" Right?
Yeah.
I think that the ban was an attempt to just play the nuclear card to see if they'll bend.
Yeah, I think it's a political move. Like most bans are like a political move, right? I
mean, on this podcast
much like tariffs,
political about 90 seconds ago.
Much like tariffs, much like a lot of other legislation that tries to ban things, right? It's more of a political move. It's more of what helped me understand a lot of it outside of like the logic, because I'm like, this doesn't make sense. It's politicians trying to appeal to their base, right? We've covered so many cybersecurity laws that we're like, that's freaking wonky. Like, what? And again, we have another story about the California law that's like, we use to age verify to download an operating system, which isn't quite what they were saying. I think what the law was saying is that you have to give the user a facility to enter their age and log that, rather than actually verify they're of age. Because a lot of the porn laws are you have to provide a facility to people actually verify their age, versus what the California law, I believe, says is you just need to have a facility to enter your birthday in order to download the operating system. In either case, though, it's a problem for Linux in a big way, where the software is free, it's open. Like, it contradicts the foundation of free and open source software. Like, software should be free and open. I didn't put in the stories, but I flagged a great video from this new channel I started following that was talking about the XZ backdoor, but it's an hour-long video, and they backed all the way up to the beginnings of open source in Richard Stallman, and I was like, wow, that's really like a great refresher as to like software should be free. In most software should be free and open. I get there should be commercial software, should be open source software, right? But having free and open software gives us that liberty. And what some of these state laws are doing is trying to take away those liberties, which is where I feel California is going with this particular law.
What
Sam, I know you live in California, right? How do you feel about this one, being an instructor and teaching students and using open source, right?
I think it's just going to be like the cookie pop-up. It's just going to be another irritating box. Oh, are you over 18? Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I could see the over 18 prompt, but I have a harder problem if they say, give me your exact birth date. I'm like,
that's weird.
But then again,
I don't care. Do you want to run Linux? I don't care. Like, my question is why though? Like, I don't care what you want to run Linux. Who cares how old you are?
Well, the law doesn't require it. all it requires is that you're in categories like below 13, between 13 and 18, above 18, something like that. They don't obligate you to have a birthday. But the point is, of course, they're preparing for the inevitable future when everything's age-gated. All the social networks are going to be age-gated. All the porn is going to be age-gated. So it's going to be considered an essential feature of your computer that it can report your age.
To pile onto this, Brazil is requiring that you do age verification at the operating system, and you know how many days they have to complete it? 13. It has to be done in 13 days.
Well, you just ask Claude Code to write it, right?
Is it per user, or how does that work? Like,
yeah, like, but like,
I don't think they know either.
If you're maintaining a Linux distribution, like, how do you, like, who cares who's downloading it, and what effect does that have on society? Again, to me, it's the why.
It's not like
you just write an app and you say, if you're in California, you're supposed to add this app.
I mean, so like I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here, and I haven't read either one of these, but like when you take a look at the porn gating issue, do you want to upload your driver's license to some sketchy porn site, or would you rather Apple say, hey, this user is over 18, right? Go ahead.
I agree. There's a privacy concern with age verification bill that is very concerning, right? Because are they storing that? Are they recording that?
Yeah.
Like what? Uploading your license, like there's a privacy concern.
I would never,
nope.
Ever like that. Like,
I mean, it's all these countries too that are trying to ban VPN. Like, also, how do you do that, right? How do you ban a VPN? Like,
well, you have to have one. No, you can do it if you have only one gateway to the internet, like China, and you have one choke point it has to all go through.
And as someone who has traveled to China fairly recently, it's not all that terribly accurate. I'd also argue that China also bans Google. And while I was in China, like, all of a sudden I realized that my Chrome browser on my iPhone was working just fine. And I actually Googled from China, does China block Google? And the answer was yes on my Google.
Were you on cellular or Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi.
Interesting.
Actually, no.
Well, and were you VPN?
Both.
Were you VPN Tailscale or something?
I was not VPN'd, and I think it was on my quote China phone, and I was on a China cellular carrier.
Right. Interesting.
Because when I was in China all those years ago, I was on cellular, and I didn't find the blocks. I just assumed they were on the wired internet there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is interesting.
Or wired, whatever, the non.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lee. I was on cellular at the time.
So, I was thinking I have a couple of more lighter stories that I thought would be kind of fun. The first one being I don't know why, but the Garden Studio update that had a CISA alert. I mean, this is for an IoT garden monitoring system, and they're like, there's this big bug in it, and you can use it. If I was tracking it, you can have insecure connection, default credentials, man-in-the-middle attack, remote code, execution, and lateral movement. So is that the quadfecta, trifecta, whatever? On a home gardening system.
And it was an ICS system advisory.
Yeah, I mean, good on them for putting out an advisory. I mean, cool, but wow.
I love their FAQ, Lee. Like, in the FAQ, the second question was my device hacked? And the answer was, we have no evidence that these vulnerabilities were exploited. I don't know if I buy that. The way you fix them
is to connect the device to the internet.
For it.
Yeah.
Like, who went through the trouble of issuing an alert?
So so for the record, it's not on the KEV list. It's just CISA did an advisory.
Yeah. Not a KEV.
And as I joked reading this story that I said to Lee in Slack, I never thought I'd see this. What should I do? This takes 60 seconds. Make sure your garden is connected to the internet. Those are words I never thought I'd ever read.
Right.
So,
and then later it has a picture. Your garden is offline. You're damn right it is.
So,
well,
but also, like,
I think this is the Internet of Shit stuff that they warned us about. Years ago, they're like, hey, not everything has to be smart.
So now not only does your garden grow because you've put fertilizer and shit on it, your garden is connected via shit, right?
Yeah. Oh, honey, I've got bad news. Our garden got hacked today.
Sorry,
don't eat those tomatoes. They're poisoned.
They're tobacco.
Yeah.
So on a
but crazy though, on the CISA topic, right? Yeah, Lee, you had a story that CISA's warning of the RESURGE malware on Ivanti devices. So this is like basically a fork of the malware that's being installed on Ivanti devices. We talked about that last week with respects to Ivanti, and then but we also have reports that CISA's funding is all out of whack.
Yeah,
my story number 15, right?
That's distressing about their funding. I mean,
you
can argue whether you
CISA.
agree with them or not, but that doesn't mean you need to whack their funding. They do good stuff.
There's so many people that work for CISA and or are contractors in that ecosystem that are so important to what we do in cybersecurity today. I'll be able to talk more about this in the coming weeks, right? But I've had great experiences working with these people, and I feel really bad that the U.S. government is cutting this funding because I'm like, I need these programs. All of us need these programs in order to be successful at providing cybersecurity for both private and, public infrastructure. This is important work. And then you look at what's happening. My story number 15 and 14 and 15, right, is CISA replaces the acting director after bumbling a year on the job. I don't know if you guys read this story, but this is
I skimmed through that. It seemed weird. The weirdness of there was a CISA employee that flipped the middle finger to their Tesla device or Tesla car, which look, your Tesla car and a lot of electronic vehicles are just a computer with wheels. And those of us that have been around technology as long as we have, we get frustrated with technology. And so I'm like, if that person wanted to flip the middle finger to it, I get it, right?
Yeah.
It's
right.
If you ever had a printer, my wife. My wife hates printers. She was just telling me, she's like, I hate this printer because it never wants to print and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, sweetie, that's all printers. She's like, well, we need to get a new printer. I'm like, I don't think our experience with a new printer is going to be any different from the experience with a current printer. It's basically giving me the middle finger saying I don't want to print. It literally did that to me today. I printed a document for our taxes because she was going to the post office. Then she came back and I tried to print a registration for our vehicle. And my printer was like, no, I can't do that. But I'm like, you just printed. It's like, no, I gave you one document printed today. That's the best I can do.
That's all you get.
My
all I can think about is all these printer memes on the internet now are real life for me today.
And you know what happened, Paul? I can tell you right now. Someone took Hijetter and used PCL to change the display in your printer to say, please deposit 25 cents. You haven't put your 25 cents in.
Right.
If we're gonna go full circle with FX.
I was expecting that, right? I think it's a Canon. They're all the same.
Yeah, if we're gonna go full circle with FX from Phenalit,
but this article is the person, it said it in here. The person gave the middle finger to their Tesla, and I think it was the acting CISA director had them suspended for that
because he left his Tesla occupying the charging port for days, blocking it.
Oh, interesting.
Well, then he deserved it.
Well, maybe
the finger. I mean, yeah.
But then my story number 15 is CISA reportedly is in dire shape amid Trump cuts and layoffs. So here's some notes on that. CISA is understaffed after Trump administration cuts, which we all know. I experienced this personally. I think it's horrible because I think CISA does great work. They lost 33% of their staff, eliminating counter ransomware, election security, and software security programs. Now, of that list of three things, which one do you think is the most politically charged? Regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, put that aside for the moment, just based on facts and what you've seen.
Well, election security.
Election security is the most politically charged. And I'm like, why would... anyway.
So I volunteered for
functions.
election security a couple times, right? And so I've been a part of that program, and it was
you shouldn't admit that out loud. That's it. You're blacklisted now.
That's it, right?
I didn't say for what country, Sam.
Yeah. Look at what happened to Chris Krebs, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of a sudden, Bill's going to fall out of a window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's like politically charged, like banning and fund cutting. So there's been no permanent director since 2025. There's an ongoing DHS shutdown started on February 14, 2026 that furloughs 60 to 67% of remaining workforce to 38% capacity, limiting their threat response. The fiscal year 2026 budget slashes CISA funding by $500 million, targeting cyber ops and risk management. Why? We can point to so many great benefits from CISA, specifically, like because it's all like intertwined, right? So when I interface with US CERT in the VINCE program, when I interface with CVE in the CNA program, all of these are people that under some weird structure, right, Bill? But some weird structure that all kind of falls under the CISA umbrella. But I'm like, these are important programs when it comes down to it. For me, as a security researcher, to go, I'm highlighting issues that need attention, but now where I'm reporting those to has been that funding has been cut and the resources have been cut. This is not a good thing. Especially, look, I'm going to throw this out there. We're at war with Iran. However you want to paint that.
We're at unofficial war with Iran.
Unofficial war, however you want to phrase it, right? But you look at our enemy nation states, North Korea, China, we need resources to support our cybersecurity efforts as a nation, yet all of this stuff is being cut from CISA. Like, none of this makes sense. This is just...
I'll give you another use case. There's a lot of stuff about, pick your critical infrastructure or even non-critical infrastructure. And the place to go for free help is supposed to be CISA. If they cut CISA, they can't, you want to win.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the big things they had going on for them is you could, as a citizen, you'd already paid. Your taxes paid for CISA, so you could ring them up.
When we look at conflict, right? When we look at conflict, the way that conflict plays out, cyber is often the first phase. Look at our invasions of Iran from Israel and the U.S. It is well documented that the first phases were cyber.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think that reflects back on us as a nation? And CISA is the U.S. government organization that helps us secure our own infrastructure, right? It's in the name, Critical Infrastructure Security Agency. Why would we cut funding? It doesn't make sense to me why we would cut funding from that.
It makes perfect sense.
Other than
me, but I gotta
stupid
keep my
political
mouth shut.
Right? Like stupid political reasons. Like, put that aside, man. Like, we need these resources to help ensure our critical infrastructure security.
Sam's got a comment.
I think you unpatriotic, disloyal people are overlooking the obvious solution. Trump put it in his first term. You partner with Russia to secure our elections. That's what he proposed, and I don't know what happened to that. That was his original plan. That would solve all our problems.
Good Lord. Good Lord, if that's the strategy.
He even had a name for it. It would be the Impenetrable Cybersecurity Agency, I think, and that would secure our elections.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would be really nice to have somebody we could ask, because what's the deal here?
Yeah, the problem is those people have been laid off or furloughed from CISA,
and
or have left of their own accord because they can see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you're working somewhere where you can't be effective,
I can tell you firsthand, the people that are still working there are engaged with the mission and amazing people to work with. So why wouldn't you keep that? Yeah, right? Why wouldn't you keep that funded? Like, again, I can't talk about in coming weeks. I can, but great wins, right? Great people doing great work in these organizations. Keep that up.
Hey,
don't cut the funding. Keep it up.
All I'm going to say is it worked out for us because we just hired someone from CISA, and he's absolutely amazing. So
well, yeah, I mean, yes,
so
yes.
It's mostly Larry's fault then, So
yeah. We
hired
one guy. That's the 60%. It's the 7% swag and the 60 to 67%.
I know,
right?
and I don't fault those people. And those are all people doing great work. And if they can't do it at CISA, go do it for another organization. I don't fault you in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
And continue to get a paycheck that helps support your family.
It's just frustrating. I want to see more money go into CISA, not less.
Same.
That's my take. That's my take on the whole thing, because I think they're doing great work. The CVE program, the KEV program, so many different programs, I think are having such a positive impact on our industry. And to see that cut it's not the right call, in my opinion. Not the right call.
Agree. So I had one that I wanted to. Well, we're getting close on time here.
Yeah.
But the one that kind of I did a face palm on is my number 4, where the cryptocurrency was restolen because their press release included the plaintext passphrase to get at the where it was being held. Yeah, I mean, I was flashing back. Remember, in 2018, the Hawaiian Emergency Management had a broadcast, and in there on the bottom monitor was a yellow sticky with their password. I'm like, OPSEC.
But this is even worse.
I agree. They're never getting the money back. I mean, they want to, but there's no way in hell. It's like something out of a bad comedy, or.
Well, no, actually, I understand it, and I've been using it as an example in my classes because I understand what happened. If you save a Word document on a flash drive and you unplug it, nobody can get it. Now, the Ledger, the Ledger wallet, is it Tether Ledger, looks like a flash drive, so you think the core money is on the flash drive. If people don't understand, is the money is always on the blockchain, and the only thing on the flash drive is your private key. But that's not obvious. I can easily understand how someone would make this mistake. They think the whole point of this thing is the physical object has the money.
Well, so when I was going through my divorce, Bitcoin was a thing, and they wanted my my recovery key, and I had to no, I'm not like that. That's not something that I'm going to provide because of this exact reason, right?
Yeah, because the key is the money.
The key is the money.
The key is the money.
Yeah, and that physical object doesn't really have your money, although that's certainly what a person might reasonably imagine when they buy.
It has your key. It has your key to access the money.
Yeah, when I read your story, Lee, I was like, man, I need to start looking at more legal docs, because I'm sure that probably exists a lot. Yeah.
But hold on, it says the seized funds included $6.9 billion, or US $4.7 million in virtual assets. So they had that taken from them because the key was leaked. Is that
sure? Yes, somebody you just put it on Twitter or something, so somebody immediately just logged in with that and took the money.
Yeah.
Zoom, and they have the blockchain entry, but doesn't help.
And it got stolen twice.
Yeah,
the first time the funds are taken from the quick crypto wallet and returned, and then the thief claimed to have been acting out of curiosity. Several hours later, it was stolen again.
Because
I was just curious. I didn't want to actually steal it. Then they they did a little bit better OPSEC and came back again. Is what happened there.
Yeah,
better.
I'm going to actually steal it now.
Better or worse than RM-RF/?
I see you too wanted to remove the French language back.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong. I really do feel for these guys. This has really got to be horrible for them. But there's part of me that's going, I am so glad that was not me.
Yeah, no doubt.
And hopefully we can learn from this and have others learn, because that's when I look at all this stuff, I'm like, what can I take away from this story? What can I do better or have others do better? Because,
I want to highlight my story number 16. Just going on kind of random stories, but so my story number 16 is from Gray Noise. I love Gray Noise.
Gray Noise kicks ass.
Oh yeah.
Love Gray Noise. Shout out to my friend Corey who works at Gray Noise. Love Corey. and all the folks at Gray Noise. But they wrote this post, and like it's a great post, not just because of the technical analysis, but because of like the story behind it. And in the article, like basically the author is saying like, hey, I found a suspicious like URL encoded string, and it turns out if I URL decode it, I get another string, and it turns out that string is a backwards base 64 encoded string that when I make it right and then decode it, gave me all the information about the campaign. And I just want to let that sink in, that it's kind of like this is like a CTF thing, right? Like the key to the CTF is I have to URL decode something and then reverse base 64 decode the thing to get to the actual data. And I'm sure this has happened before, but I was like,
I cannot describe the joy I have at working with a type of person who can look at a string and go, oh, yeah, backwards base 64.
Dude, like 100%. That is the best statement in this blog. Like awesome sauce stuff in there. So yeah, it was basically like I think it was a crypto thing, crypto wallet kind of swapping thing that ended up being, but like the thing that I got from the story was exactly what you said, Larry. Like, I work with amazing people that can like look at a string and go, that's backwards base 64. That's awesome.
Oh, those equal signs aren't on the right side.
They're on the wrong side.
Yeah.
They'll reverse it.
Mm-hmm.
Just so awesome. What else did I have in here?
That is really cool deduction. You know, they really, and then they published what it did, except they forgot to translate it all to English. I mean, what the hell, man?
Bill, I was thinking of you when I was reading my story number 3, hacking the Gibson, essentially. Like, there's a lot of puns we can draw from this one, but basically, you do a lot of incident response, Bill, right? You want to map a process on a host to network communications and where it's going. And like how much money has been spent in our cybersecurity industry to be able to solve this problem. Like so many solutions we know about, right? That cost a lot of money. That's like, hey, your host has a process running. That process initiated network communications. It talked on the network. Now correlate your network communications to the process running on your host. I want to say I've used what is the open Security Onion to do some of this, and other commercial solutions that try and tie these data points together.
Yeah,
this dude
on the Windows machine, you would use like the sysinternal suite to do to do this.
100%. This was like, hold my beer. I'm gonna rewrite this whole thing in Rust, and that's what he did. I haven't tested it. I don't know if it works, but I'm like, super cool, dude, that like you can open source a thing that's written in Rust. That's like you put the agent, he has an agent that you put on the host, and a server that you deploy that is correlating and looking at all that stuff. I'm like, that's
a cool
pretty
project.
awesome, right?
So it looks like
I haven't tested. I looked at the screenshots and I'm like, that's awesome. Like what the proof in the screenshots, I'm like, that's great.
Yeah, it looks like you run an agent on those devices.
On the host, yeah. Because you need something on the host that enumerating the processes, right? And then you need something on the network, and then you have to correlate the two. And what was amazing to me is that we can just open source this stuff. We pre-recorded something this morning that'll release during RSA, right? What you can like, I don't know, are we still using vibe coding is vibe coding still
AI assisted engineering?
I love that.
Right.
I love that, right? But like what you can do with that to supplement and or replace commercial solutions that are charging a whole bunch of money is pretty astonishing today. That's a disruptor for AI. Like we've reached a point where there is a disruptor. Now this project didn't call out that it was vibe coded or not, but
well, you can tell it is. Well, I don't want to. I'm not throwing shade, right? I do.
No.
I mean, Claude is a contributor to the GitHub repository, so
yeah.
But in this one, it wasn't. Which I'm like, okay, but maybe you still did use Claude. But like, good for you. you should use Claude Code to tackle tasks like this and do that stuff. That's where we are today, and I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
And hey, let's look at the time.
Hey, yeah.
Oh, hey, look at that. We're over time. Hey, thank you, all of the hosts on the show today. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Larry, take us out.
Overhand. Out.